Hello, this is my first ever video book review. I just wanted to try something different. I do have notes for myself, so you will see me glancing over at the notes. I'm going to review this book today. It's called The Whole Brain Child. It's by Daniel J. Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. It's pretty highly rated on Amazon. You've probably seen it before if you frequent parenting books. It's pretty well liked, and I liked it too. Okay, so basically, this book, the major point of this book is that our parenting style can really influence the wiring of our children's brains and as they're growing. And throughout the book, they give you examples of strategies to talk to your child and talk about your feelings as a way to sort of integrate all the different parts of their developing brains. So some of the stuff I'll talk about here tells you about the 12 strategies. I'm not going to do every single one of them. Okay, so at the beginning of the book, they talk about parenting and about how the flow of our minds is like the flowing river of well-being, it says. Sometimes we move more to a chaotic side and where we're more out of control, and sometimes we're much more rigid and we move toward that side. And I would say that's probably true for most of us, that we go back and forth between being very rigid and feeling like the world is falling apart around us. And to be a really balanced parent and to raise a really balanced child into an adult, we want to try to stay in the middle, and we want them to stay in the middle of their flow of well-being also. So that's what this whole book is about. First of all, I should clarify, the left brain, if you haven't heard this before, the left brain is the logical, literal, linguistic part of your brain. The right brain is much more holistic. It has to do with meanings, experiences, and relationships. So the first strategy has to do with connecting the left and right brain, and it's called connect and redirect. Basically, if your child's having a meltdown, you're going to connect. You're going to try to identify the feelings and connect with the feelings, and maybe even use a hug or a physical touch to sort of connect. And then you can redirect by logically explaining, why that conversation maybe went downhill and where the tantrum started. And then you can collaborate. This is a little bit like collaborating with your children, like in the book Raising Human Beings, or The Explosive Child. It's a little bit along those lines. My guess is these doctors all know each other. Strategy 2 is name it to tame it. And we talk about, and the authors talk a lot about telling stories to deal with big emotions, some of which can be negative and some can be positive, but storytelling, walking through the story, and trying not to avoid talking about the hard things. And I think as parents, we think that maybe it's better just to not talk about painful experiences or traumatic events. And the argument here is that talking through it and telling it like a story will help you to integrate both sides of your brain. The next thing they go into is the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain. The downstairs brain is all the basic functions, impulses, fear. The upstairs brain is more thinking, imagining, planning. And again, we're trying to integrate upstairs and downstairs, just like right and left. So in children and in people with ADHD, the amygdala, it plays a pretty active role. And it's in the downstairs part of the brain. And it's responsible for things that we deal with our kids, like temper tantrums and arguing and defiant behavior and that kind of thing. And sometimes when a child is having a real meltdown, according to the authors, they are really temporarily unable to connect with that upstairs part of their brain. And so getting there is very difficult. And sometimes there's literally like a barrier, and the amygdala sometimes is the barrier. Okay, so strategies 3 and 4 I kind of combined on here. You have to appeal to the upstairs, and you have to exercise the downstairs. So as kids get older, we need to let them make age-appropriate decisions. What color shoes do you want to wear? Do you want to wear a t-shirt or a long sleeve shirt today? All that kind of stuff. Maybe talking about and teaching mindfulness. It's not very easy to meditate with a small child, but starting to talk about it and expose them to the idea of mindfulness. Encouraging journaling. It's hard to do until they can write, but journaling is really important. And then talk a lot about the emotions of other people so we can sort of foster empathy in our children. Strategy 5 is to move your body, get exercise. We all know that's really important. Strategy 6 has to do with talking through implicit and explicit memories. This part of the book does get a little scientific. I'm a science nerd. I like that stuff. If you do not like that stuff, it may get a little heavy for you. But if you are a person that has trouble discussing some of the hard stuff, it might be good for you to read through it and understand why sometimes having implicit and explicit memories and working within that, why it's good for you and it's good for your children too. Strategy 7 is remember to remember. So creating memories, happy family memories, because the way your child thinks about relationships and family, it all starts at home when they're young, and it will carry over until they're adults. And again, this is something we all kind of know and recognize. Asking open-ended questions instead of just saying, did you have a good day? What did you do? What are 2 things you learned? What was the hardest thing you learned today? Asking about other people's feelings. Well, why do you think your friend was upset with you and didn't want to play with you today? All that sort of thing. Strategies 8 and 9 has to do with teaching your children how emotions come and go. Emotions are fluid. And actually, I thought this was a really important point, because whether you have ADHD, your children have ADHD, whatever their diagnosis is, if they even have one, we have to learn that emotions are fluid. So just because you're upset today does not mean you're going to be upset tomorrow. And that's a hard thing for some of us, even as adults, to catch on to. Towards the end of the book, the focus really shifts to integrating your brain with the brain of others, which is really important. It's important for everybody. And I'm going to read this quote because I think it's kind of a good quote. It says, "The brain is set up for interpersonal integration. Each individual brain is made to interact with the brain of all the other brains we interact with. Interpersonal integration means that we honor and nurture our differences while cultivating our connections with others." I just thought that was a really good quote that sort of summed it up. Strategy 11 is making time to enjoy each other as a family, being silly. Not every experience has to be engineered and pre-planned and perfect in every way. Go to an Easter egg hunt even if it's raining. It doesn't have to be perfect. That isn't going to ruin the whole memory. It's the idea of doing it together that matters. And the last strategy, 12, is teaching conflict management. So you're shifting the focus from one person to we, and you're talking more about how other people feel. Teaching about conflict resolution and how to really apologize and what it means to apologize and how to feel real meaningful sorrow or whatever when your child makes a mistake, how to recognize it and resolve it. So anyway, the book is packed full of information, but the cool part is it's kind of small. You can get through it pretty quickly. I got through it in probably like 2 or 3 evenings reading in bed. So it's a really good book. It's worth a read. I do recommend it. I will look for an affiliate link for those people in my private group. If you have other questions about the whole brain child, feel free to email me at healthyadhd@gmail.com. Thanks.